the first one here says Trump says he will be arrested on Tuesday, calls for protests, urges people to take our nation back. Former President Trump has posted a Truth Social that he expects to be arrested on Tuesday. I don't know if that's actually going to happen. He posted that. I'll tell you what I thought when I heard about that. I thought about what was the last thing that Trump was in. First of all, the whole time that Trump has been involved in politics has been a soap opera. I mean, people said, they hired a reality star to be president. What did you expect? And that's exactly right. I mean, the guy, you basically, by the time people are 80 years old, they're not like changing their stripes. I mean, you hire a reality show host to be your president, and you're going to expect reality show. So one of the patterns I see here is, for example, I don't want to start a conspiracy theory, so let me just say I don't know anything. What I'm going to say what thoughts pass through my head, but they don't have any particular bearing on reality. But so there's a couple of similarities here. The obvious one is he's calling for protests, same as he did, when the election results were being challenged. But that's not the similarity that I want to talk about. The similarity I want to talk about was his most recent issue, and that was the documents. The FBI went to Mar-a-Lago and they collected his documents. So does anyone remember how that turned out? For Trump, it didn't turn out to anything, really. I mean, they collected his documents and they put the documents back in the files, and it's like, whatever. But what happened next was look at this piece. 4 ports. Ports on all 4 sides. That's another rare piece. All right, so after they went to Mar-a-Lago and picked up Trump's documents, the next week they were at Pence's place picking up his documents. Then the next week they were at Biden's Delaware home picking up his documents, and I think it's like some university he had an office and they were picking up stuff. So basically it's like they started off picking up Trump's documents and then they started picking up everyone's documents. And this is not the only time that this has happened. Basically, when Trump does something, it looks to me like a preview of what we're going to see more of. Now is when I'm going to make the leap into Nowhereville. So, COVID. Remember COVID? That was like a big thing. All the countries across the world shut down, but not all of them, right? Sweden didn't. Now I think Brazil didn't either, but some Caribbean countries didn't either, but nobody really expected them to. We're not associated with Brazil or, they're kind of we'd have been lucky if we got them to do what we say, but the Anglosphere, the NATO countries, the West, we sort of expected them all to be in lockstep. And for the most part, they were, except for, does anyone know which one was not? It was Sweden. So Sweden, if you remember, during the 2008 crash, which was preceded by the previous 5 years of, you have to watch this movie to see all these definitions, but these credit default swaps and all these things. I think the movie was called The Big Short, and they've got Margot Robbie in a hot tub explaining, or in a bubble bath explaining all these finance terms. But basically everyone was mad at the bankers, the collateralized debt obligations. They had all this weird stuff going on. And eventually it crashed, and they were like, well, you privatized the profits, but you want to socialize the losses. And that was a big thing. And most countries just ate it, like America. We were just printed however much money, diluted and where that money went, that's a whole different story. But not every country did that. Sweden arrested the people who mismanaged their fellow countrymen's money. They didn't say, like, we're going to print more money to bail you out and everyone's money is going to be worth less. They were like, no, you're going to go to jail or you're going to pay it back or something. You know, it's like you're not just going to get away scot-free. So now fast forward 10 years later, whatever, the next crisis is COVID, and everyone does these lockstep lockdowns. Sorry for using lock in 2 consecutive words, but Sweden doesn't. Why? Here's a total guess on my point. It's not based on anything, but I wonder if the people who were in charge of the public's trust in Sweden thought back to 10 years earlier and saw their colleagues in the banking sector going to jail, and they thought, you know what, if we don't honestly think lockdowns are going to help, then maybe we shouldn't do it. Totally, I have no evidence to back that up. That's just my sort of thinking on it. So when I see someone say, we're going to start arresting politicians, even if the first one is a guy who I voted for twice, it still piques my interest because I think, like, well, where is this going? Yeah. So that's sort of my feeling. Where is this going? What's the next phase? And like, everyone's like, oh, but everyone hates Trump. Do they? Does everyone hate Trump? Like when you watch a reality show and everyone hates, isn't it usually like the star of the show? I don't watch a lot of reality TV, but I think I've watched enough of it to know everyone hates. There's one person that everyone hates, and that person's like the star of the show. So, just because they say the media is controlled doesn't mean that they don't use reverse psychology. Again, I know I'm going like crazy here with potential conspiracy theories, but I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm just saying, let's see where this goes. Like some people are like, oh, we got to get up and protest. Yeah, maybe. I mean, if Trump said that he wants people to protest, then I guess that's what he wants. And that's kind of how I felt on January 6th, too. I was like, he's a big boy. I don't know why he's asking for protesters rather than just counting the ballots because, they didn't need protesters on January 6th. They had like Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz and all these people who were going to stand up and challenge the vote. And instead, you have the Capitol Police letting all the protesters into the building. And then Nancy and Chucky, they shut down the room and everyone hides in the basement for an hour. And then they come back, implement emergency procedures, like Emperor Palpatine when he was like Chancellor Palpatine, and Jar Jar Binks gives them like emergency powers. So then they come out of the basement and they're like, oh, we're under attack. You mean you're under attack from those people that the guards like let in and like shuffled them down like velvet ropes while they took pictures with statues? Like that's the attack you're talking about? So anyway, they come out. Nancy says we're under attack. We're implementing emergency procedures. We're not listening to any challenges. We're just counting the votes. So Trump did that. I don't know why. But if he didn't tell people to come to the building, then that wouldn't have happened. So that's kind of how I feel. I have no idea where this is going. There's a story